There it goes. All right, we are live. What is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another live edition of The Kingdom Says. I am your host, as always, tonight, Mr. Garrett Williams, and I am joined by my two beautiful, handsome co-hosts tonight. We've got Mr. Kyle Henning. How are we doing tonight, Kyle?
Oh, you said beautiful, handsome, and I was looking around.
Flowing locks, gracious, yeah.
They're tucked up tonight.
Flowing locks.
It's not out and about. It's all tucked up. So,
doing well.
I now don't have to look like I live in a cave. You can see in things because I got new lighting in my office and things. So
nice.
We're out. We're rolling. Been an interesting week due to developments from the team that we weren't planning on. It's just all kinds of fun things. Ready to talk some Chiefs ball because it's Red Friday and it's also Bills week. So
it is, yeah.
And
one of the more intense games.
And if they win tonight or win Sunday, they can pretty much lock up the 1 seed unless they just absolutely disintegrate down the stretch. So
lock it up for real.
Yeah. As close to locked up as it can get without it being official. 3-game lead on anybody that's close and the tiebreakers, which is a 4-game lead. Yeah, we like those odds.
We like those odds, yeah. We also like having our other man of the hour, Mr. Arrowhead Tom, with his flowing locks in a different part of his head. How are we doing tonight, Tom?
I'm so glad you went with the different. If you were going to say a different part of the body,
different part of the head.
Head.
I was going to spin it right back into a Manscaped.
No, you probably don't have pants on back.
Hey, we can probably try that again. They're still sponsoring folks. So
yeah. No, listen. It has been just a weird week, I think, for everybody.
Yeah.
And it's been a weird year. And we just need football, man. We just need football. And I'm thankful for it. Thankful that I have you guys to chat football about, football with. There we go. Those are the words in the order that I wanted to put them out, essentially. And this is a big game, but it also isn't a big game because it's a regular season game. And people are going to say a lot of stupid things and have already said a lot of stupid things.
Silly things already said.
I might add to that list of people who have said stupid things tonight. So I am ready. Still can't believe you guys let me do live stuff. This is risky.
It wouldn't be the first time, and it won't be the last time that someone says something stupid on Kingdom Says. All right.
Tom live is risky business. And no, we're not doing movie reviews.
Yeah, y'all might get a view. Just saying. So.
Also,
I do have pants on this time.
Oh, yeah. Huge.
Shout out to the viewers and that are with us live right now. I know I see several of you are on Twitter and the Facebook. Drop your comments, get involved with the show. Also, I know that they were having some issues with comments processing through from a couple of those sites. So if you drop a comment and we don't see it and we don't throw it up after a few minutes, if you want, hop over to the YouTube channel, subscribe there. You'll get notifications when we go live, all that good stuff. And I know those are working so we can see your guys' comments and interactions. So
exactly.
That said, Garrett, let's get us rolling.
Yeah, so Bills week here. Some might say this is the biggest, the baddest Chiefs rival of the Mahomes era thus far. Either them or Cincinnati probably are the real rivals. We don't really have division rivals anymore at this point. We've kind of dominated those. The Bills have been a constant team that has faced Kansas City. But I think almost every year we faced them, both in the regular season and the playoffs. I don't know how that keeps on happening. I guess it's because division winners end up facing each other and whatnot.
So once 2020 happened, we played them every year.
Yeah, and sometimes multiple times.
Usually
play them in the regular season, and we usually play them in the playoffs inevitably. Last time, obviously, we played them was the divisional matchup this past season in Buffalo, which was a big talk of the town because that was the first road playoff game of Mahomes' career. It was a big snow game. There was a whole shebang about it, a whole lot of hype in Buffalo and whatnot. And we went on the road and got it done pretty handedly. And so, yeah, we got him back once again.
Wide right.
Right.
Sorry,
yeah.
Did I say
that? So should be interesting. The Bills, like I said, play us a lot, and the regular season record is very good for the Bills versus us. I think, I believe the overall record, Pat and Josh Allen have both won, I forget the amount, but the same amount of wins versus each other. The difference being that the Bills have never beat the Chiefs in the playoffs. They've only beat us in the regular. So that's pretty key. And even Josh Allen admitted it in his press conferences this week that all the fun regular season stats don't really matter, because the one stat they have not accomplished is a playoff win over the Chiefs. So this should be a very interesting matchup. One of the best teams in the AFC this year still. Josh Allen still having a really good, he's just really good in general. Josh Allen is a really good quarterback.
Crazy how that works.
Good year. It's crazy that Josh Allen has not declined any. He is still a very good quarterback, and that Bills team in general, a really solid squad. A bunch of new faces than the last time that we seen them, and just a lot of different circumstances. A lot of new faces on our side too, and we're going to get into that obviously with the injuries and whatnot, with the new injury popping up this week. But yeah, Kyle, I'll just start with you. I'll kick it over to you. First initial impression overall of the game heading to Buffalo to see the Bills again.
This game's going to be interesting from a styles make fights perspective. I think that's probably going to be my most interesting portion of this. Is it honestly, Kansas City matches up better against Buffalo than they have the last several years. Looking at this matchup from how both teams are playing, what they do well, what they don't like to do, so on and so forth. And then roster depth, because we've talked about it. Buffalo's roster isn't what it has been in years past.
No.
But Josh Allen is still playing good football with a depleted wide receiver room by most people's standards. They did go out, get Amari Cooper at the deadline. They needed to add some to the wide receiver room. They felt like they were missing a piece. He's hurt. He's supposed to potentially play this weekend, but we'll see how that goes. I talked about it a little bit on X, Twitter, X, Twitter, whatever you guys want to call it. We're going to keep calling it Twitter here because it's way easier. But I think it's, first of all, Vegas has made this more of an interesting concept by the movement of the line from the pre-line before they had finished the Denver game to the opening line after the Denver game was over to where it stands now. They've added some fuel to the narrative fire. It's going to be they're two teams. They know each other well. The coaching staffs know each other well, obviously. It's going to be a fun matchup. It's always a fun matchup when we play Buffalo. It's a good little rivalry. Both teams have won some, but like we said, only one is won when the games matter the most. So that's been a little bit different than, the one win that the other team Garrett mentioned is kind of a rival. Josh Allen's the second best quarterback in the league overall, and I don't really think it's all that close. And Lamar's great, and Joe's fine and great, and good. That's fine. But when you boil it down to brass tacks, if you're starting a roster, it's Mahomes and Josh Allen. Those are the first two quarterbacks off the board. So a lot of respect for both. That includes the teams having respect for one another. That includes the quarterbacks having respect for one another. They're also in the off season friends. They're pretty good with each other in the off season. Both talked about we don't talk much during the regular season because we're enemies during the regular season. But when it's off season, it's fine. So it'll be fun. I hope it's kind of like the environment was in the playoffs last year. It'll be a little more difficult because it's not a playoff game, but this is also a matchup of the teams with the most wins at this point in the season, this early in the season, since we played the Rams in 2018. So combined, it's 17-2. I think 17-2 is the record between the two teams.
Yeah.
And with two teams matching up, there hasn't been a matchup like this in like 6 years. So, and ironically, it involved the Chiefs. So I'm looking forward to it. I don't think it's going to necessarily be as much about the quarterbacks, honestly, but we'll get into that more.
Tom, initial thoughts on the game?
Well, I want to make sure we take a second to talk about what Kyle said in terms of the quarterbacks in the league. And, I think if Patrick Mahomes didn't exist, I would want Josh Allen to be the guy, like to be the quarterback, right? Like that's like,
oh yeah,
if somebody wanted to say Lamar over Josh, I would be okay with that. If somebody wanted to say Joe Burrow over Josh, they probably put chili on their spaghetti, and their opinion doesn't matter.
I'm not in that.
Yeah, no. Joe Bradford, Burrow is not in that conversation right
Stan?
now.
You mean Stan? Oh, sorry.
Joe, yeah. No, back when he was playing for the St. Louis Rams. Anyways, we're not gonna whatever.
There was an Eminem reference. There was a St. Louis reference. There was lots of references in those jokes.
I'm just saying, you're just saying Bradford with better receivers. Moving on,
slightly better knees. Anyway,
like I said, this is gonna be a big matchup. It's gonna be what everybody talks about. It's gonna be this really big deal, and at the same time, I don't think it's going to. Like I don't think it's going to be big. The Chiefs are kind of limping right now, right? They're getting some pieces back, but they've been. I think this is probably the most injury-ridden season that Andy Reid has had.
I think
since
so.
He's been here.
Yeah.
And we're not talking like we're talking major injuries. We're not talking Sammy Watkins injured every week.
Too.
Yeah. I mean, we're down. Running backs, and we lost both our projected starting wide receivers. We've got defensive ends coming back. We've got a
CB2 is out.
Yeah, a CB2 who's really been. I think we're realizing how underappreciated Jalen Watson was and is. So, man, Jalen, I hope you're getting better, my friend. So I think there's going to be a lot of hype around this game. I would caution having a lot of expectations for the Chiefs right now. And now whenever I doubt them, they tend to surprise me, just like when last year in the playoffs, I picked the Dolphins that one time, and then I had to pick against the Chiefs every game until they won the Super Bowl because we're superstitious here.
We remember.
Not just a little stitious. Yeah, I know. So I say this, and they'll probably blow the Bills out 40-0. But I'm very calm and relaxed about this game, just because I don't think it matters when I don't think it's going to matter when it matters.
CBS wants you to hear a lot about this game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, CBS would like to be the number one spotlight game of the week. Yeah.
Well, they're also flying their pregame crew out to do on-location pregame at
I feel like they just barely started doing that. Now they're like, let's do that to the Chiefs Bills. That sounds like a good one to really thrust that forward with. I will say, Tom makes some good points, and it's very valid where it's like, I do think this might end up being the Chiefs' toughest matchup of the season so far. And I think, there is a lot at stake in a way, but also for the Chiefs, they're leading the division pretty comfortably. If the Bills won, they would be tied in the win category, still to have one more loss than us. But I mean, it's just,
and they don't it is hard
to, that's true. Mm-hmm. It is hard to kind of think that this game is a huge deal though, because once again, this playoff stats, the regular season, the win comparisons, like they've won many times versus us in the regular season. It's not like the end of the world when it happens. If it does, it's one of those things. So it's going to be interesting. And once again, like super banged up. There's so many things that, it's going to be different if there is an eventual playoff rematch between these two teams. Just the amount of things
like
that
a Cheesecake Factory menu. That's what this injury report is like.
And it's we'll talk about one of the notable injuries that just popped up this week in a second here, but I don't know. It's going to be a tough game. It definitely is. And you don't want to say it like there's excuses, obviously, for the Chiefs, but there are some valid reasons as to why they might not be matched up as well at this current time versus the Bills. And the Bills are pretty hot. I think they just won. They've been on a winning streak, I believe, for the past few games. And
30-point game streak too. I think 3 straight of 30+.
Yeah, so I mean they're definitely hot, and Chiefs are kind of limping, and we're kind of hitting the low of the season where the defense is kind of struggling a little bit more, and the offense is doing a-okay. It's up and down, still missing big opportunities, but it's just there's I think more in it for the Bills to win this game, and more kind of pride and hope and all that stuff. Whereas for the Chiefs, we want to win it, and you want to beat good teams, but it's not going to be the end of the world necessarily, whatever way that this game goes on Sunday.
So, and of course, that's not, it could be Leo Chenal decides that he's going to pour out all who's got to have it to the rest of the locker room, a la Space Jam, Mike's Magic stuff, and then they come out and play 4 quarters of great football. But
true.
I think there's 2 pieces to the gotta have it part. I think there is. So I think if Kansas City were to lose this game, everybody looks around and goes, "Yeah, and."
Yeah,
like even nationally,
we should have lost a couple of them already. So
it's not even that, but like it also goes back to the conversations we have about Lamar in the playoffs every year, and the Bills against us in the playoffs every year. And like, regular season wins are great. Can you do it when it matters? That's at the end of the day, that's what it boils down to. And I don't know that winning or losing this game changes anything about what anyone thinks is going to happen in January or late, So that's the part where I don't know that it's as big of a game, but I do think Kansas City and the locker room is focused on this game. First of all, Patrick wants bragging rights with Josh. He's tired of listening to we split the things. Now I beat you when it matters. But I guarantee you there's conversations about, but I still got you. That part matters. I don't like saying that they did any kind of looking ahead from the Denver game, but that Denver game was a trap game, and we didn't really think it would be because it was in a division opponent, and because I thought they would come out and do some things different. But they will provide you a lot of steam and momentum. If they knock this out, it allows them to get some needed rest if they want to with certain guys at points in time down the stretch of the season. You may not have to force guys to play, said in that 3 games in 10 days window. You may not have to rush Harrison when we get there back, things like that. So they're going to be very interested in making sure this game gets done, and when they get it, I don't think Boogie, we are too, because the Buffalo fan base on the social media apps is rather loud.
Yeah, that's the most annoying part, really. Yeah.
They're going to. This game is a big game because they know they're going to probably see this team again, and they don't want to give teams free confidence. And at this point, they found a way to win every game, and they're not going to want to stop now. I think Mahomes' reaction at the end of the Broncos game, and you saw he's celebrating like it was the Super Bowl, blah, blah. No, okay, great, cute. But they want to win because at the end of the day, he's made it clear he's chasing Brady. They want history. They want the narratives. They want the legend status. Oh, yeah. How do you get legend status? They won't talk about it publicly, but undefeated season followed with a 3-peat, you aren't topping that one in the legend status. Do you know how hard it will be for the next guy to try to tip that scale if he wants to submit the greatest of all time? Patrick doesn't talk about that stuff, but if you watch the Netflix documentary Quarterback, if you think he doesn't care about the stuff, he does. He absolutely does. It's the reason he's so petty with all the other stuff he does. It's what they want. So it doesn't matter. The game isn't the end of the world, but they want this game. So
yeah, I agree. Man, Brandon, don't think the Chiefs are 3-peat, but Thomas is his bro. So hey, shout out Tom.
Hey man, it's 3-peat's really hard. It's insanely
it is
hard.
tough. He is very valid with
think...
that point of losing one gets the fire on there for real.
I didn't think that they were going to get it last year. Like I said earlier, I was doubting them the whole time. But
yes, Book.
Yeah, this 100%. One's the fact that they acknowledge it and that they do play like that's their goal, and it's better than.
And before we keep going, I think that matters too. The bye week, that's a big key for them in this game too.
Yeah, we can get that
because their bye week was early.
Yeah, just getting that second bye is huge.
Yeah. Well, and we saw that last year with the week that they got a rest once the seeding was kind of put in place. Like they didn't have anything to win. And here's how big that rest is. Travis Kelce, Pat, all those guys are very competitive. Travis decided he would let his personal 1,000-yard streak go to get that rest, and he needed that, man. He looked rejuvenated in the playoffs. I think just to go back to what my guy Brandon was saying, it's hard, but the thing about this team comparatively to I think some other teams that have gone to the Super Bowl and have experienced the Super Bowl hangover, this team is not. They understand their own mortality. They understand that they are a flawed team and that they have to play complementary ball. They're not heavily leaning on one side or the other, right? They're playing cohesively. And some people, it's luck. It's luck. We talked about the blocked field goal and the strategy behind that, but that's a moment where you have those guys across the roster who have that championship mentality. And we talked about that. If you didn't catch the episode earlier in this week, we kind of broke down. Kyle did a great job of talking about how others have pointed out the different lineups and the matchups on that side of the field goal block, and you can call that luck, but at the end of the day, I've seen guys phone those plays in at the end of a game, so the teams that make the most noise really do have that find a way. And people always want to look at the Brady's undefeated season and talk about how that offense was so prolific. They had a couple of games. I think specifically there was a Baltimore game and a couple of other games that were really, really close. That they were winning on kind of last minute things we tend to forget those uglier games because they're not as fun as the 40 point,
we can only try to
touchdown.
Please.
Well, I'm talking about even just the Patriots season,
Randy Moss being in more of his prime and them trying to blow teams out, which they blew a lot of bad teams out too. So the point differential conversation got out of control this week too.
Right.
So. Yeah. At the end of the day, that's where it's scoreboard, man. The point differential. I mean, at the end of the day, the number that matters is in the wins and losses column, not
to quote Dominic Toretto, you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning.
You're right. That is
family is everything too. As well. There's that.
Okay, so before we get into more of this matchup here, we should highlight the biggest piece of news that has come out for the Chiefs this week. Yesterday, just a real shocker, surprise. Yesterday, Harrison Butker popped up on the Chiefs injury report with a knee, and a couple hours after he popped up on that report, it was reported that he was headed to the IR and he was getting surgery on his knee. It's his left knee, his non-kicking knee. He was set to get surgery to, I believe, trim meniscus is what the procedure they were doing for.
There's some cleanup on the meniscus, yep.
Yeah, so very unexpected because, it's kind of just popped up randomly, Harrison Butker knee injury. A lot of people kind of speculating on what, when, and how it happened. I know the last kick of the Broncos game was kind of a flubbed kick. Who knows if that has anything to do with it, or if it just
not according to Andy.
Mm-hmm.
So Andy in the presser today said it happened in practice yesterday.
Okay, yeah, that's what I kind of figured as well. Because if he's not on the injury report Wednesday for that, then why would it? So yeah, that's why that made more sense to me if he's popping up on a Thursday instead of a Wednesday for something like that. So. Some happened obviously during practice. Who knows exactly? I'll probably never really find out the acute details. Besides, maybe he just landed on it wrong, twisted or something, and
not until stuff's over. Not until the season's over. You ain't gonna hear nothing.
So they got him into surgery. He did tweet out and post out that the surgery went well, and he should be good to go in 3 to 4 weeks. Well, 4 weeks because he's on the IR. The Chiefs officially placed him on the IR, but hopefully no long-term things, and hopefully Harrison will be back and good to go for the playoff run, because he is unequivocally the best kicker in the league right now. He is definitely the most clutch kicker in the league, and
he's working.
That big leg of his has won us a lot of games, so it's definitely a huge blow for that special teams unit. The amount of consistency that he brings, it's a big loss. It's definitely a big loss for the Chiefs, especially when you're going up against a very tough conference opponent like the Bills. So the Chiefs signed Spencer Schrader, I believe is his name, off the Jets practice squad. Number 40 is what he's wearing as a kicker, so that's cool. He kicked with the Jets last week in their matchup. He was with the Colts earlier this year as an undrafted free agent. He's a rookie out of Notre Dame, Kyle's place.
I've watched him kick plenty.
Yeah, he has a soccer background, I believe, all that stuff. I know a lot of those kickers do, but it's going to be interesting to see old Spencer Schrader out there for the next 4 games kicking for the Chiefs. Hopefully, we don't have to rely on his leg too much, and maybe this forces Andy to be a little more aggressive. I don't know. We'll have to see, but just not a great thing. Yeah, you're right, but yeah, it's just not.
He was fine. He's not got anywhere near the same kind of leg that Harrison does, at least not as consistently. His college numbers weren't incredible.
69% in college. Yeah,
most of that. But I think most of that was at his previous.
He went to Southern Florida.
USF.
Before he got to Notre Dame. So he was better at Notre Dame. He really didn't have many issues. He missed 1 or 2 in Notre Dame, but not a ton. He was 37 of 37 on PATs. I think he was, so 9 of 13 on field goals, but they didn't have him kick hardly ever in field goals. Notre Dame didn't kick a lot of field goals in 22. He was, like I said, he was fine.
He was okay.
I'm sorry, that was his senior year, was the 9 of 13 at USF. His Notre Dame, he was a grad transfer. He was 61 of 62 on extra points at Notre Dame and made 15 of his field goals. I don't think he kicked much more than 15. I know there was a couple games 1 for 2, 2 for 3, but I think most of them were from like 50 up. And in college, 50 up is not the same thing as it is when you get a little bit older. You
not as automatic in the college game as it is in the pros.
Yeah.
I'm not as concerned. I'd be more concerned if he was kicking an Arrowhead for his first attempt, because Arrowhead's a bit of a pain to kick in with the way the wind rolls in and out of there. Now, not to say it's not going to be a little windy in Buffalo, potentially, but the dynamics of Arrowhead is a very unique kicking experience. You hear kickers talk about it all the time. And him basically not getting to the team until Thursday isn't my favorite thing on the planet to try to kick for the first time in Arrowhead. So playing on the road may actually benefit him this week, and then getting a whole week next week to kick and get used to. And I would assume they will have him kick in stadium next week for some of the practices to get used to the actual stadium. Provided they're
the way that wind drifts.
Well, and it swirls and it does weird things, and it comes in one end and comes back around, and so it's going to be a more difficult for sure. You don't just replace one of the best kickers in league history with his abilities like that all willy-nilly, but I'm not overly concerned. I think if push comes to shove, he'll be fine. I would just prefer Andy be more aggressive with him than he is when Harrison is kicking. It's not, hey, you can hit from 65 and I'm cool. Like I don't want to do that.
I would be surprised if they. I would guess that they're probably going to cap him around 45 yards. So anything outside of 45, outside of a gotta have it situation,
I wouldn't be mad if they gave it to 50, but I don't want to go over 50 if we don't.
I think his college long was It looks like 54 at Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm. I actually remember that kick. He probably would have made it by about 10 more yards, but it wasn't consistent. So that's where I would leave that.
Yeah, and I would think, and it is very different in the pros. I think Dave Tobe will have him ready and that type of thing, ready to roll. But yeah, I mean, he's a rookie. It's Andy will give you the opportunity, but kicking is really one of those jobs where you just want to have a nice quiet day, go out there, do a couple kickoffs, do a couple extra points, and then just hang out on the bench and eat a hot dog. Like that's the ideal day for a kicker. Yeah. It's when you have to put and Chiefs fans are a little spoiled because Butker has been so good in those clutch moments, has been so good in those big moments or those long field goals and that type of thing. Like definitely a part of the team that we are spoiled and don't always give enough recognition to. Opinions of Butker aside, very reliable, very big piece of this team and the championship DNA of this team.
Oh yeah.
The kid is ice cold when it's clutch time. Like he walks out there and you're
never a doubt when Butker steps up for a big kick in the playoffs. Never a doubt.
I do want to give the kid a little bit of credit. The Notre Dame has a lot of kickers in this league, especially like Brandon Aubrey is a Notre Dame kicker. He came out of Notre Dame. Really good for Dallas, has been for several years. Spencer had tied Notre Dame's program record of 50-plus yard field goals with 4 and did it in one season. He also holds the program record with the 54-yarder because that's the longest field goal in Notre Dame that Notre Dame had. Like, he's not bad. I only got to see him for a year before he got out of USF and into Notre Dame. I know he didn't have the greatest time at USF in some instances, but also USF, beach,
college,
ocean wind, college, still developing, and he played a lot of soccer. He wasn't I don't think he played a ton of football in high school.
Yeah, he was a soccer guy.
A little bit of transition. Like I said, he's been much better, and he actually was pretty good for the Jets. That's why they tried to
2-2 for the Jets last week, I believe, and then he made all 3 of his extra points for the Colts when they elevated him. I think week 2,
and they tried to keep him in New York.
Yeah, actually, a funny kind of thing with him leaving the Jets.
I tweeted about
special team coach had actually came out and talked about him in his media day, like not even 30 minutes before. He came out and talked about how Spencer really handled the job well, and they had a lot of confidence and trust in him. And then, like, not even 30 minutes later, he signs with the Chiefs. And it was reported that the Jets offered him a 53-man spot, and he said, "I'm gonna go play for the defending champs. Actually, I'm gonna go have a 4-game audition for the entire world, get a ring because he'll get a ring if the Chiefs end up winning in the end. He'll still count for that ring, and then he's just a free agent next year anyways, so it's not really a big deal. And now he has a 4-game audition tape for the back-to-back Super Bowl champions. It'll be interesting to see how he does, but definitely wishing the best for Harrison Butker, hoping his recovery goes well, and hopefully that he's just all good and dandy before we go back to we get to the meaningful games in the playoffs and whatnot.
I had to run out to the garage and get a garage beer. So,
maybe
they'll throw us a sponsor at some point one of these days.
Yeah,
I don't know. Who knows?
Okay.
Sorry, Tank's going bananas in the background. I did want to briefly touch on the him not staying with the Jets. For some reason, there was a reporter, Rich Cimini, who's a New York Jets reporter. Couldn't figure out why he would potentially only take a 4-week gig with the Chiefs instead of potentially just taking the Jets kicking job. And I would ask Rich, one, would you begrudge the guy because he got a chance at a Super Bowl ring, even if he plays one game, if they win this year? 2, if he kicks well for the 2-time defending champions for the 4 weeks that they're out, do you think he's not going to get another job when Harrison comes back?
I mean, kickers bounce around the league so often anyway.
And 3, the Jets.
Jets. Why would you want to stay there and be miserable for the rest of the season?
We all watched, right? We've all seen what they look.
We've seen how it goes.
Unfortunately,
I just checking.
You would probably have to have eyeballs when the Jets are on TV.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, you probably would have had more kicking opportunities, but I don't even think so because they don't even get into field goal range. Typically, the Jets do. So I think he made a smart choice. Hopefully, the kid does well, and hopefully the operation around him.
I'm confident. I'm not as confident as I would be with Harrison, but I'm confident.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, I think Tobel has some confidence. I mean, the Chiefs and Brett Veach have a pretty good track record of finding specialists, as you
Anybody
will.
remember where we got Harrison Butker from?
Yeah, I think he was
Georgia
a
Tech.
practice squad steal.
He was on the Panthers. That's
Carolina
what I was
Panthers.
He was on the Panthers, Tom.
We
You're
stole
right.
him from the Panthers. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we've had Harrison Butker, who was a practice squad guy. Tommy Townsend was an undrafted free agent.
Mm-hmm.
We had Ryan Recco here, who's a pretty good punter now for whatever team he's on. Jack Fox is here for a cup of tea. So yeah, the Chiefs have a pretty good record of finding specialists. Obviously, Matt Ariza now, who will be making his return to Buffalo, which will be a fun time. Yeah, it'll be fun for. Yeah. He talked about how it's good to go back to a stadium
he's familiar with. Their fault, but
yeah. But so yeah, should be.
If you're not familiar with Matt Ariza's story, you can Google that. We're not going to get that.
Yeah. But
hopefully
we're not talking about specialists.
6-month-old Twitter threads. Anyways,
hopefully we're not talking about special teams as much, unless it's another crazy field goal block or maybe a McCole Hardman punt return or something like that. Otherwise, usually don't want to hear much from special teams. So with that, let's get into the rest of the matchup. A couple other things. I'm just going to quickly glance through the injury report here real quick because it's a very, very long list of dudes for both teams. On the Chiefs side, there's a lot of full participants this week. No one incredibly notable. Juju Smith-Schuster will be making his return. He doesn't have any game designation, so he will be back off of that hamstring injury that caused him to be out for like the past 3 weeks. Other than that, looking on the injury report, everyone else looks pretty good. The two guys who have an out designation were the two guys coming off of IR, which is Charles Omenihu and Isaiah Pacheco. They are not back and good yet. Coach Reed kind of alluded to that. That was probably going to be the case. Hopefully next week, or maybe even the week after. But those two are very, very close to returning for the Chiefs, which is huge. I mean, Omenihu, Pacheco, those are really good dudes that we're going to be getting back. So that's awesome. On the Bills side, the most notable ones are Keon Coleman is out, their rookie wide receiver. He's already listed as out, as well as Dalton Kincaid, who is already listed out. And, of course, the Hall of Fame star-studded Ray Lewis couldn't hold a candle to him. Matt Milano is unfortunately also already listed out.
I see Daquan
that man ducks
Jones
the Chiefs every time.
Out?
He
Did
does.
I see Daquan
it seems
Jones
like he has been
ducking.
Too? What was that, Kyle?
Did I see Daquan Jones is listed as out also?
Daquan Jones is not listed as out. He has no game designation for the game.
Must have been looking at the wrong line.
One of the two, Spencer Brown, their tackle, is questionable with an ankle, and Amari Cooper is questionable with a wrist injury, which he's come out and he's done some interviews. He has a cast on his left hand. He said he's going to play, and he's going to try to catch and figure out how to catch the ball.
Wrist, but it comes all the way around his. You guys ever tried catching a football with half an oven mitt on?
Yeah, so that doesn't seem fun. That's Amari Cooper's status. He has one hand essentially. So I don't know. He might end up playing. It's still not confirmed. He's questionable. He might end up playing. I don't know how many targets he'll really get. I'm guessing he might be more of a decoy guy running out there. Maybe they give him a couple, but I don't know if I'd put a lot of trust in that.
I know you mentioned Spencer Brown. Did you mention that he didn't practice either day?
Spencer Brown, he missed 2 of the 3 days with DNPs on an ankle injury.
That's not great.
Not great.
Yeah, no, they've only got one other tackle behind him. So Ryan Van DeMark.
And we saw what backup tackles can look like at points. We don't need to redelve into that. But
yeah. So that's kind of the main points from the injury report. Buffalo has a lot of other guys who were limited or full on that list, but those are the only guys with game designations.
Did they ever? Did we just both agree to put everybody on the roster on the injury report? Because there's got to be 30.
Well, I think with some recent developments by some of these teams, I think teams are just like, you have a cut on your finger.
They walked into the training room. Write it down. Write it down.
You got a hangnail. Put them on the injury report. They ain't even risking it anymore. So that is notable. Also to note, Josh Allen was on the injury report with a left hand injury, which he was a full participant for all week. I think he's had that dealing with a couple weeks now. I think he banged it up somehow on someone's hand, and So yeah, it'll be interesting to see there. But that is the main injury portion of the matchup there. So obviously, I think big place to start Chiefs offense, which has been the plague of the team the past few weeks, and the underperformers on the team. Getting Juju back, getting D-Hop another week in there. Kelsey's good, all that stuff. What are we expecting? What are we expecting this week, Tom? I'll lead with you this time. Tom, what are you expecting initially to see from this Chiefs offense versus the Bills defense?
I know we want to see like Juju's back, and that's going to be good spacing wise. I'll tell you, this game's going to come down to essentially what we saw last game and how the offensive line responds to getting their absolutely having their backsides handed to them. And I know we spent a lot of time talking left tackle, every single one of them. That was as a unit. There should, I'm going to assume and hope that was not a very happy group of big men in that film room earlier this week. And to put that on, to stack that up with Buffalo, their defensive line is really good, and they've got a lot of different ways to come at you. They've got Gregory Rousseau, they've got Ed Oliver, they've got AJ Epinesa, but then they've got guys like the one kid from Troy, who's kind of a rotational rusher for them.
I know who you're talking about.
Javon Solomon, I think
Solomon?
It is. Yeah, Solomon. They've got the corpse of Von Miller, who sometimes just decides he hates the Chiefs and wants to play well.
Dude, Cap hit is an anchor, but yeah.
Yeah.
God.
Oh, Von.
He does have 3 sacks this year in 11 games, but
hey, good for him.
Yeah. There's some tools up there, and I think that if you want to get right game for the offensive line, this would be a great one to do it. The secondary, Teron Johnson's really solid. Russell Douglas is probably an underrated guy, but Christian Benford, I don't even know what that is.
Christian Benford is the guy who replaced Kyer Elam, their first-round pick. He's the guy who beat him out for a job. Yeah.
Yeah, we do want to take a moment and acknowledge that the Bills did draft Kyer Elam, one pick after the beloved Trent McDuffie. But yeah, and then they've got okay safeties on the back half.
Taylor Rapp's fine. DeMar Hamlin's alive, so those are both pluses. Glad DeMar is back and got got the job and took.
Yeah.
I mean, no, that's a hell of that sounds tongue in cheek, but legitimately, dude
died.
Cardiac event, died on the field. They had to revive him, and he's now a starter and playing pretty well, honestly. Legitimately, he's played fine. Taylor Rapp, he's fine. I'm not a super fan of Taylor Rapp, but that secondary, after a bunch of rework, remember they at one point had the best safety combo in the league by a lot of people's accounts with Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. They're both gone. Tre'Davious White gone and now in Baltimore after being in LA. That's a legitimately overhauled secondary that's actually been pretty good this year. That's not been their weakness on defense.
Yeah, they've held it down pretty well.
Yeah, their defense is definitely they're strong. They're definitely a well-coached unit, and they have a lot of familiarity with the Chiefs and how Patrick Mahomes does things, how the O-line works, how the offense kind of functions. I'm pretty sure they still have the same, coordinators and whatnot that have been there the past few years. So, yeah, it's gonna be an interesting matchup. Once again, it always just comes down to what version of the offense wants to show up and who wants to wake up. I think pass protection and really just offensive line play from the whole is really going to be huge for the Chiefs this week after last week's not great showing. Handling the rush, getting the running game going more. I think that's something that, I think the Chiefs are definitely going to benefit from having Isaiah Pacheco back when he inevitably comes back. Unfortunately, not this week, but Kareem Hunt, he's still great and he's still chugging along.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, the steam or the wear and tear is finally starting to catch up. I think the load.
Yeah, I think you see it a little bit on him.
Yeah, which I mean,
his offensive line got their ass whooped last week.
You're right,
Yeah,
and that is tough.
Too.
It's not one or either, But when you have this much workload on a 29-year-old running back, it's just not going to be as explosive. So I mean, it's once again getting him established and just getting him good, clean pockets to run through, getting him some good ways to get easy yards and really make them appreciate the run game, make them definitely pay attention to it so you can open up some more of that deep stuff for Xavier Worthy, who I think they've talked about. They're really trying to get Xavier Worthy on page, and get Pat and Xavier on the same page there and just get him more looks on the offense. And I think it'll increase. I think it'll definitely increase more and more as the season rolls on.
So I'm glad you brought that up, Garrett, because Tom, you guys have both kind of led into the three real pieces I really want to talk about with this offense versus their defense. They play a lot of zone. That's not usually a good recipe against Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes, regardless of who's next to him.
And Juju.
Like I said, regardless of who's next to the main two guys, Travis and Patrick,
the main two, though.
It's not really worked out well for most teams. Playing zone is usually kind of a bad idea. With DeAndre Hopkins and Juju Smith-Schuster, it's probably a way worse idea. That's asking a lot of a defense to be able to pass guys off, make sure there's no mistakes, make sure there's no misses, make sure that they don't just randomly stop a route that's not what they've ever seen on film in a random spot on the field and be wide open for a pass. Yeah. Because an untalked about part of how good Travis is at that, and DeAndre has shown he's very good at that. Juju got paid by the Patriots based off almost exclusively that. What he did in Kansas City the year he was here before with 1,000+ yards, they killed zone. So this is what I was talking about a little bit at the beginning of the show with the styles make fights kind of thing and the Chiefs matching up better. Buffalo is a zone team, and Patrick traditionally eats zone. The Bills have 13 sacks this season. Total.
Is that good?
The Chiefs have 20, and they're considered one of the bottom in the league.
Okay, that's not good. Turns out
that's
not good.
They get a lot of pressure. Gregory Rousseau has, I think, 41 pressures.
Okay, that's good.
That's great.
That's pretty good.
He doesn't get home when the ball's still in the quarterback's hand.
It's hard to get home on Pat a lot, too.
Patrick, that was my next. That's the next thing. So the Chiefs have given up 19 sacks while getting 20. The Bills have got 13 sacks and given up 25. Not great. Not a spectacular matchup from that perspective. The other thing is the Bills don't stop the run particularly well, especially big physical run games. Kareem's not going to bust off a 25, 30-yard run on you, but he's going to hit you in the mouth 25 times, 30 times for 4 and 5 yards a carry, because that's what they've been doing other than the last game when they got their butt whooped. And I mean the collective offensive whole on the blocking schemes. Yeah. The receivers, the tight ends, the line, nobody had a good day blocking. Nobody. I doubt that repeats itself, mostly based off what Garrett said earlier. That film room was probably not the most fun place to be this week. They struggled with stunts. They struggled with twists. They struggled with straight-up run blocking, things that they haven't struggled with in weeks. Not probably fun. A motivated, angry offensive line that's going to – the game script is going to feed into running the ball and then throwing the ball in zone coverage is good for the Chiefs. There is a real chance that Kareem gets 25, 26, 27, 28 carries and has 100 yards.
Probably will. Yeah, he probably will. There's a good chance.
I think the things to watch for, and we also talked about how thin they are at the linebacker position. Remember, the future Hall of Famer Matt Milano, and I cannot say that with more sarcasm in my voice if you guys aren't picking up on that.
Yeah.
Is out.
Savior.
He's not playing.
Yeah,
again.
He played like in the past 5 matchups. I feel like we always say, "Oh, Matt Milano's out again."
1 or 2
Ever
times.
since he was the great hope that he shut him down when he gave him like 100 yards. He hasn't played.
Ever since then, every time it seems like he's ducking him.
Like I said, so they are not great at the second and third levels in the tackling aspect either. That's not really what those safeties particularly do well either. DeMar is fine, but DeMar Hamlin is not going to make huge big hits on running backs very often that are especially the ones that outweigh him by 10 or 15 or 20 pounds.
Yeah, not huge.
Taylor Rapp is not a big dude. He was the Rams safety for a while and had some issues with tackling in the run game a little bit too. So if Kansas City comes out and runs the game script they've kind of been running most of the season on offense, they run the ball. And if they run the ball as effectively as they have all season, if you need to look, they're like top in the efficiency and bottom in the explosive play category. It's one of the most weird chart progressions you can find. It's what they do. They don't get anything more than 4 or 5 yards of rush, but they get that 4 or 5 yards of rush damn near every time.
You're
so
right. But that is,
I am looking forward to watching this offensive line reassert itself, and really push on this Buffalo Bills, especially in the interior. I know also the Bills were very susceptible to outside zone last week or the week before, or sorry, the Baltimore game. They got worked by Baltimore in the run game.
Yeah.
So if you're getting run all over and then you have to start dropping those safeties down into the box to worry about that run game, hey, Garrett, what does that leave open?
Well, Kyle, that's going to leave that run game real wide open. I'll tell you what. And
now, if they have to pull the safeties down in the box, what is that going to leave open?
Oh, you're talking. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's going to leave the deep ball. Oh,
to who?
Kyle, that's going to leave the deep ball to one Mr. Xavier Worthy. That hopefully Patrick Mahomes connects on. This
Garrett, who traded us the pick so we could draft Xavier Worthy?
Oh, I feel like there is a team. Yes. Oh, the Buffalo Bills. They traded us the pick for Xavier Worthy. Yeah.
You know who else knows that?
Who else did that?
Brett Veach, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Xavier Worthy. What does Andy traditionally do in matchups? He will never say this publicly, ever. You couldn't probably waterboard this out of Andy if you tried. But in matchups where guys are playing against their old teams or in situations where there's a connection to that team, whether it's, hey, they gave us a pick for this player or whatnot, he usually draws some special things up for that player. They also have been looking for ways to get Xavier more involved, whether that's in the run game with some of the jet sweep, screen game, whatnot, whether that's the deep shots that have been open that have had some misfires, whether that be not knowing where you are on the field, whether that be the ball landing 6 yards out of bounds, whether that be any of the issues that we've seen take place.
Yeah.
The focus is going to be on making sure that they succeed, but also are willing to put some things on tape probably in this game that you haven't seen before. And if you're getting the ball crammed down your throat on the ground, play action passes, deep shots down the field on 2nd and 4 or 2nd and 5. If you missed, it's still 3rd and 4 or 3rd and 5 against the team that predominantly plays zone. And again, they destroy zone coverage. Destroy it.
Well, I think we'll see some interesting wrinkles in the RPO. Andy's been sprinkling those in a couple times this season. Some of these options with Worthy in the backfield and a running back and then a receiver coming across. And I think we'll see some wrinkles in that, especially as the season goes on. But I would also say, this it's a fun matchup. And Kyle's right, like the connections with players on the team and there's it's a fun rivalry. I think we can enjoy it this week. Also, on that same note of the connections, I think go ahead and I don't know much about betting, but go ahead and put up like a little 5 or a 10 on the Matt Araiza anytime touchdown line once that pops out. We might see that Tommy Townsend.
You can probably get some good odds on that.
I don't know that they'll put that line available. I don't know that
they should.
You have to go to You're going to have to go to the underground bookie for that.
Yeah, you're going to have to go ask a bookie at your local bar to get that line. But
all right, $5. I got you.
So the other, and this is my last point on that part and the connection side of it. Does anybody know who has played the Buffalo Bills already this year?
Nope.
DeAndre Hopkins.
Oh. How did he do in that game?
3 or 4 weeks ago. Well, I don't know, but I know Will Levis was probably throwing him the ball, so probably not great.
Yeah. But he's already at least put in a week of study on this team. So
he's already seen them.
Yeah.
So that helps.
Oh, it was not a good game for the Titans.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. Because the Titans were really bad.
Any game with the Titans? Remember the Titans were
good,
better than the Chiefs? And
no, not even better than the Chiefs, just good. In general, they were just overall at least decent to good, and now they're
in the AFC Championship a few years ago.
Yeah. We have some friends that are Titans fans, and I feel bad for some of them routinely. However, we do appreciate the DeAndre Hopkins trade.
We do appreciate that. Appreciate all, yeah.
But D-Hop having a full week head start, unless Buffalo decides to change who they are as a defense, which is very hard to do in the NFL. You are usually who you are as a defense, especially by now in the season. It's not super easy if you're a super mostly zone team to come out and play a ton of man-to-man coverage. It's real difficult.
Right. Yeah.
So it'll be unless they're going to come out and break a lot of their tendencies as a defense, which they might because it's the Chiefs and everybody plays us differently.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot harder for them than I think a lot of people are anticipating. Also, have we checked who were the corners for them? Rasul Douglas and Christian Benford, and Kyer Elam is one of the backups.
Teron Johnson and Rasul Douglas are solid.
Sorry, Teron Johnson's the nickel. I don't want to disrespect Teron. Teron's been great for them this year.
Good.
Yeah, but he's also the nickel.
And I think Douglas is a little underrated.
I have some Green Bay Packer fans that would tell you that he is not underrated. But anyway.
Who was the guy? The Chiefs had him for a while, and then he's just bounced around the league forever. He was a corner.
You're going to need to narrow that down.
He's just always been good. This is going to drive me.
Rashad Breeland? Kyle Fuller?
Not Breeland.
Kendall Fuller? Sorry, not Kyle Fuller. Kendall Fuller?
No, I think he's on the Texans at one point. He's not always been good, but he's just always been he's just been.
If you say Steven Nelson, I might throw things at you.
That's the first person I thought, and I was hoping not. Who is it?
I was thinking Steven Nelson.
Oh my God.
I'm not saying he was good. No. I'm not saying he's good. I'm saying he just sticks around.
That I agree with. But
I don't know, Tom.
Steven Nelson's not Philip Gaines, but he's not good. So, okay, he's not going to give up 8 of 9 for 230, but he's not going to.
Orlando Scandrick hung around a couple teams. Orlando teams too. Yeah.
Come on, let's not do
Gaines, I think made a couple rosters.
Steven's better than Orlando. I will give you that too.
Gaines made a couple rosters. Yeah.
Calm down. So Teron Johnson's been great. I don't want to take anything away from Teron Johnson, but I don't really like DeAndre Hopkins is against Christian Benford and Rasul Douglas because you're not going to see D-Hop in the slot.
That's wrong.
Look,
Randy gets it. What are you talking about? Praising Steven Nelson, bro. Tom, you're crazy.
Here, let me do this. Which one of those corners do you want? Right? That's why I said at least it wasn't Philip Gaines. Which one of those corners you want to put in man coverage on DeAndre Hopkins?
I don't know. Yeah,
he ain't gonna be in the slot. He's not gonna be in the
zone.
slot. I know. That's what I'm saying. If they go a tendency breaker, he plays in the slot. Teron Johnson is their nickel corner. He's traditionally in the slot. They're not gonna line D-Hop on the slot. Not very often, anyway. You're gonna get Juju in the slot, so that's gonna be the matchup there. I think if they do that and play man, it'll be Teron Johnson and Juju.
Juju coming back, I think, is very underrated.
But are you worried about Rasul Douglas locking up D-Hop?
Appreciate Juju
because I'm not.
No.
Yeah,
I think there's gonna be a lot of space, and again, we'll see. I would also it wouldn't surprise me if
covering Travis Kelce.
Nobody. We've already established this. The number of times,
ain't nobody. It's always a game plan, really. Yeah.
You see that very large white guy who is literally you see his face everywhere you go, and today.
Shout out Randy in the North Dakota High School state championships.
Yeah, representing. You should cover Travis Kelce. Somebody should do it, but so far a lot of teams elect not to.
Usually teams, it's more of a group effort than any one guy getting on that thing. So should be interesting. Should be interesting to see how the Bills. Obviously, they've tried a lot of different things to try to limit the Chiefs, and some has worked, some have not. They have a lot of history to go off of and prior notes and whatnot. So it should be interesting. Let's hop over to the defense, the Chiefs defense going against Josh Allen in that offense. We alluded to it a little bit earlier about some of the missing weapons they have. No Keon Coleman, no Dalton Kincaid, Amari Cooper limited with one hand. Their big thing on offense is James Cook. He's obviously a really good running back. He and Josh Allen are like a 1-2 combo of runners, and that's saying something with a quarterback like that. So that's obviously a big thing that the Chiefs are gonna want to shut down. That's been the MO this year for the Chiefs defense, is shutting down the run game of these guys who are hot. So that'll be something. James Cook also is a factor in the receiving game, though. So that's an extension of that part. So James Cook will be a big topic for him. Other than that, they have a couple other young receivers, Khalil Shakur, that guy who doesn't wear shoes. What was his name? Matt Collins. Yeah, they got him still. They got Dawson Knox. Yeah, they still got some guys on offense that obviously they've been a pretty efficient offense this year with 30 points the past few games. Kyle, you said
last 3, I think they've gone for 30, but again, teams. So the last 3 games, their last 3, they beat Indy 30-20, largely in part because Joe Flacco couldn't stop giving them the football. They beat the Dolphins 30-27, and they beat the Seahawks 31-10, and they beat the Titans 34-10. So 4 straight 30-point games. They also beat the Jets by 3 the week before that, and lost to Houston by 3 the week before that, and got run over by Baltimore 35-10 the week before that. So I'll just do this. They beat the Cardinals 34-28 to start the year. Then they blew out the Dolphins 31-10. Then they blew out the Jaguars 47-10. Crushed by the Ravens, lost to the Texans, squeaked the Jets, beat the crap out of Seattle and Tennessee, squeaked the Dolphins on a field goal and some interestingness at the end of that game that led to the field goal. We won't, with all the stuff that gets said about the Chiefs and the refs, but hey. And then 10 points against the Joe Flacco-led Indianapolis Colts. So 10-point win there. They've been fine, and they've beat up the bad teams that they should beat up. They also got smoked by the Ravens and lost to the Texans, and those are the 2 best teams they played.
Yeah, so obviously up and down season, but they're definitely a good offense still, and it's definitely gonna be a bigger task than Bo Nix. So
yes, that's not a question. That's not even close. I mean, not in any slight against Bo Nix, but Josh Allen is the second best quarterback in this league. We talked about it to open the show a little bit. He's the second best quarterback in the NFL. Period.
I think that historically they have found success when they commit to the run game. And do some of those RPOs, those options with Josh. The Chiefs just struggle sometimes to get Josh Allen on the ground. And I will say they've done a much better job. We'll watch George Karlaftis, having Mike Dana back for this game. I know he was back last week, but this game especially will be big. We're going to need Leo Chenal to channel some of his rabid energy. And then even then, when they go, different directions and James Cook and that type of thing, that's when they can be successful and really wear the team down. You almost kind of want to coax them into a shootout and make Josh Allen pass. Not that he's not a good passer, but that's like toe to toe, they can handle that. But when he utilizes his legs, that's where it gets killer for Kansas City. So, and for any team, like I said, Josh Allen is a unique talent. And
that boy good. That boy good.
Yeah, props to him. All that, but we'll see. We'll see. This defense, I think, is a little bit has more edge than what it has historically with the Bills, and it feels like this defense has a strong identity. I worry about some of the receiver matchups just because I know they're their second, third string guys, but they're kind of those smaller, shiftier, hard to get your hands on guys that we have sometimes struggled with. But I think like Najee Johnson should be all right, but Josh Williams could be a guy who gets targeted if he sees snaps out there. And then, yeah, I mean, we've also struggled with tight ends all year. So Dawson Knox is a thing, not as intimidating as once was, but
Dalton Kincaid
could have a solid. Dalton Kincaid is out.
I know. That's what I'm saying. He's not as intimidating as Dalton Kincaid. That's where I was.
Yeah.
That was what. That's what. I was
okay. Yeah.
Getting at there.
I got you. Yep. I got you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be a passing attack from the Bills that, like I said, I think you do want the shootout kind of more so because I don't know. I think it'll end up being a shootout more anyways, just because the way that the Chiefs have been shutting down the run game, and pretty quickly these teams kind of pivot to just going for passing and whatnot. And I mean, it kind of worked for the Broncos last week off in the first half at least, and then the second half it did not work. So it's one of those things. But depending on the game plan from the Bills, they could come out and maybe take advantage of the Chiefs being a little, the defense not being as prepared or just not fully sharpened yet in the first or second quarter, and then try to get out ahead early with some big explosive plays.
So quickly to take a brief 5-second pause before I dive into my part of what I'm going to talk about with this defensive matchup versus the Bills offense. Thank you all for hanging out. There's a ton of you in the chats, in the viewers. Make sure you're dropping comments, chiming in, whatever. We'll throw them up on the screen, keep you guys involved. Follow the accounts on all the platforms. Help us spread it out. We love hanging out with you guys, especially on Friday nights. We're going to try to make this a consistent thing. We've talked about it in the weeks past. It's been really good for all of us. I think we've seen a lot of interaction. A lot of people really like it. So going to keep doing that more. Drop a follow if you're on whatever platform you're on. Also, jump over to the other platforms. Throw a subscribe, a follow, a like, whatever. We appreciate the support. That said, going to shout out, if you've been here all night, you've seen us throw some comments up. Boogie, Country, those guys over at Kingdom Cast, Tell the Truth, that whole group. I'm going to read you a tweet from CJ, who is one of their hosts over at Tell the Truth. So far, these are the yardage totals for the running backs against the Chiefs defense. Derrick Henry, 46 yards. Zach Moss, 34 yards. Bijan Robinson, 31 yards. J.K. Dobbins, 32 yards. Alvin Kamara, 26 yards. Jordan Mason, 58 yards. Alexander Madison, 15 yards. Bucky Irving and Rashad White, 24 and 19 yards. Added to that list in Denver last week, Audric Estime, 53 yards. That's it. That's all.
Ain't nothing.
I say that for this reason. The Bills have almost made a concerted effort this year to run Josh Allen less and design runs. I watched him quite a bit, and I've noticed that quite a bit. Now, like I said, on the defensive side, it's not really super easy to change your tendencies and do that. That's not necessarily the case as much on the offensive side. I do think we see a departure from we're not willing to really run him as much as a designed run or a quarterback run type of play. This game matters for them. I have a feeling they'll treat it more like a playoff game, kind of like we see Patrick run more in the big games that matter and in the playoff games that matter. He doesn't necessarily pull it out of his bag unless he needs it. I think they'll pull it out of the bag more. Now, we've dealt with a little bit of difficulty with running quarterbacks. Last year, they did a really good job, even when we were spying them, of grabbing the spies at the line of scrimmage and holding them in place, basically.
May or may not be legal, but
it's not. It's not, but it's not legal. It's legal if they don't call it. So
if you don't get caught, ask Jawan Taylor.
I don't. Philosophy. James Cook has had a very good year. James Cook is not a runner that's built to run into this defense the way they've been playing this year. That's a difficult matchup for the Bills with the offensive line, especially if Spencer Brown is hurt. Because the defensive ends for this team are not the defensive ends of old who could not play the run to save their lives in some instances.
D Ford.
Sorry. Even to the guys that people aren't super happy with, like Felix Anudike-Uzomah and all that, which if you're not happy, I'm sorry, but he was basically the first pick of the second round. It was going to take time to develop. He's also developed quite a bit this year, and I was extremely hard on him to start the year.
Yeah, Kyle's pretty hard.
Yeah, he's surprised me. He's made some plays.
He's able to get off the ball at the snap now because we decided we should look at the ball when it's snapped. We're setting edges. We're making plays. He got into the backfield on the passing game even, I think, once last week. So, like, they set the edge really well. Mike Dana being back helps with that tremendously. Him and George on the edges are very good at playing the run. And then Big Mike in the middle is probably going to get a lot of time this week if Buffalo's going to try to run the ball.
Yeah.
Good luck. Pennell and Chris Jones inside with Dana and Karlaftis. It's just not a fun matchup to run against, especially if you've got a banged up tackle in Spencer Brown, who we know is banged up. He hasn't practiced at least 2 of the days with a bad ankle. Osiris Torrance is a second-round guard out of Florida.
Oh, I don't know, man. Osiris is a dog.
He's a great player. He's also a second-round guy out of Florida, and Chris Jones is not nice.
That's fair.
So, Connor McGovern's fine. Connor McGovern's fine. Deion Dawkins has had his ups and downs, but largely been fine. And that's their left tackle. And then David Edwards is the other guard on the left side. I don't like the matchup for them on the ground unless Josh Allen is the one carrying the football. I just don't. It's a tough.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough sledding. This screams if you let Nick Bolton get downhill, he's going to have a field day. This feels like one of those games on the defensive side of the ball where it's going to be physical. It's going to be violent. It's going to be good for guys that write death row on their arms and do crazy stuff and like to come down and hit people in the box.
Justin Watson?
Yeah, Justin Watson's definitely that guy. No, so with what they've displayed, with what this team has shown on the ground game this year, if you make this Bills offense one-dimensional, it's going to be real difficult for them to move the ball. And Josh is I've been heaping praise on him all episode. Yeah. I like Josh a lot. Mac Hollins does not scare you on the outside. Sorry, he does not.
No.
Khalil Shakir is a slot receiver. He's been very good. That's awesome.
Khalil Shakir's good. Yeah, he's got a lot of production for him.
He's been great. He's been great out of the slot. He's
got a lot of shake and bake.
He's very quick. He runs good routes. He's fine. Keon Coleman is not playing in this game.
No. Yeah.
Amari Cooper is going to be wearing at least half an oven mitt on one of his hands if he plays in this game. Like if you can go pull up he showed it off or whatever earlier this week, and it's like all the way up to his palm and like wraps around the thumb.
Like this whole part.
That doesn't seem like that much fun to catch with. I don't know. I could be wrong. Unless they're going to just stick a bunch of stickum to it, or he's going to wear gloves over it. Could be.
They could reduce it, or they could, or more than likely he's not going to play,
or he's going to play, or he's going to try and catch a bunch with his one hand. Which you try to catch one-handed, there's going to be some bad things that may happen. The other thing I will mention is Josh Allen has turned the ball over each of the last 3 games. I believe he has a pick after starting the year without really throwing interceptions.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of his thing. He does turn over the ball.
And everybody asked at the beginning of the year, when is he going to turn? Is he going to turn back into the turnover, putting the ball in harm's way type of guy, or not? Now, one of the picks was off a tip ball. We know that doesn't always happen. But if you go look at the made up stat that PFF has of turnover where he plays, he's got a bunch more than he has picks this year, which is kind of the inverse of Patrick, who has less than he has interceptions.
Right. Yeah. And Josh Allen, the way that he plays football, I mean, he's electric, dynamic, explosive, but also he does leave himself open to turn the ball over a couple times.
A little risky.
Definitely a risk and reward guy, and he's definitely draws that line pretty shallow sometimes. He definitely toys.
Tom mentioned Curtis Samuel. Curtis Samuel was great 5 years ago in Washington or whatever it was. Yeah, Curtis Samuel has been good. He's not great. He doesn't really terrify you. They have some matchups. Najee Johnson being back is big. I think Garrett mentioned that earlier. I think that's a huge deal. Do you know who the fourth leading receiver for this Bills team is?
Me.
Is it James Cook?
No. Fourth leading wide receiver. I don't know about the running backs. I haven't delved into it. But do you know who the fourth leading wide receiver? I think he was third or fourth leading wide receiver for pass catcher on this team.
Couldn't tell you. Could not tell you.
Matt Collins?
He doesn't play on the team anymore. It's MVS.
Oh. Forgot that he was there. Yeah, that's unfortunate. We don't get the reunion with MVS.
So there's not like this Buffalo Bills wide receiver core is not as bad as the one the Chiefs had last year, but it's not a whole lot better than it was last year. Than the Chiefs one was last year. Like, I understand there is some concern with dealing with Josh Allen. They are going to have a plan for dealing with Josh Allen. I do think being able to not have to worry about some of the other stuff and some of the other things that they have had to deal with previously helps, because it's going to be a struggle in this game, I think, to run the football for Buffalo, because the Chiefs, as Randy I believe said, here it's not letting me show it. I don't know what's happening, but Randy mentioned there it goes. It's just being laggy. That's what was happening.
Oh yeah.
So
classic.
They needs to be the focal point of the defense, because if you make them one-dimensional, it's going to be difficult. They do not have a whole lot of threats on the outside. And MVS played 6 games for them and had 26 yards on 2 catches. That's rough. So now they've got some guys that have passed him, but receiver-wise, that's it, man. Like, he was fourth until like last week, or until they traded for Amari Cooper, and then it hurt Amari Cooper. So
definitely a very depleted wide receiver core for Buffalo as well. Yeah.
I know Garrett was like, I think it's going to be a shootout. If it's a shootout, I don't know how much of a shootout it is. I don't know how many bullets in the gun Buffalo has. I think Buffalo's best chance to win this game is to play a close game. The only problem with that is the Chiefs have been doing that all year, and they're really good at it, as we've seen. If this game comes down to a couple of plays, the Chiefs are winning this game. The offense, the Bills have been fine. It's largely been they beat up bad teams. When they've played good teams, they've had trouble. And even, like I said, if they turn the ball, they have to win the turnover battle. Have to. Buffalo cannot give the ball away. It can't happen.
Yeah, so it should be interesting to see. Biggest thing, just containing Josh Allen, stopping the run game, limiting some of those big explosive shots, and just grinding out. You know, this might be a grind of a game, really. It might kind of really come down to a lot of scoreless.
It's going to be a punch in the face game.
And, there's definitely a chance that you can kind of reset your
identity. It's going to end up being a 6-12.
We'll get into predictions right here. We'll launch into it. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I think we've covered almost everything that needs to be talked about this game. Hopefully, it doesn't come down.
What are the chances that they block
another?
Justin Reed's not kicking. You're right. Yeah, exactly. That's a big thing.
He said that on Twitter. Dave Tobe said it.
55-yard game winner from Spencer Strader.
I should knock on wood. Yeah. Justin Reed shouldn't be kicking, barring something tragic happening to Spencer Strader.
You're right. Should be interesting. Let's get into it. Tom, Kyle, who wants to go first? Me?
Let me go first, because I feel like I'm gonna. You don't want me to go last on this one. Okay, I feel like I'm gonna bring the mood down. So, partially because I think it's important to play a little bit of devil's advocate, because if you're a Chiefs podcast and you always pay, obviously I want the Chiefs to win. Let me be clear.
Really want the Chiefs to win.
It's going to be such a good matchup. It is a good matchup. It's going to be a good game. I think a lot of things that we said about the Bills, we could say about the Chiefs. Both teams have receiving issues. Both quarterbacks. I mean, Patrick has turned the ball over earlier in the season at an uncharacteristic rate.
It feels.
There's injuries on both sides. So, like, in a lot of ways, these teams are so parallel. It is hard to really like it feels like we're splitting a hair, and to say I think it could go either way. Here's what I will say though. Here's what I see with my eyes. I see a team that went into overtime against Tampa Bay, had a shorter week than what they're used to, and won on the last second play against Denver. They're banged up. They've got new guys coming into the system still. I also see a Bills team, just like every other team that plays the Chiefs. This is their Super Bowl. I'm not saying that the Chiefs don't want it. I'm saying that I think that there's going to be maybe deeper in their bags, maybe more desperation from the Bills, especially because they're playing from behind. This is for them. This is a bigger deal in terms of seeding than what it is because the Chiefs already have the upper hand, right? And they. The other thing I will say is that historically in NFL games, when a team has won on a last second play, the next week is usually pretty brutal for them.
So I didn't even consider that stat. Dang.
Yep. So I'm going to be the pessimist and say I think it's going to be a pretty rough game for Kansas City. I think that there's going to be some moments that are going to make us all shake our heads and go, why didn't we fix this problem earlier in the season? And then a month from now, we'll be talking about how good the team looks after they've kind of gotten their butts kicked. I think this is going to be kind of our New Year or our Christmas Eve game from last year, or Christmas Day game. So I'm going with a score.
It was Christmas Day. God, it ruined the whole
Christmas
day.
Day.
Christmas Day.
Yeah, correct. I'm going to go with a final score of 38-14 Buffalo.
Wow, it is not a pretty day at all for the Chiefs. Jesus Christ.
And I'm going to double down on the idea that that when I pick against the Chiefs, good things happen. So if we win next week, you're all welcome. But I'm going in with low expectations.
Double that here, Tom. Yeah,
it was nice. Everybody, it was nice being part of the Kingdom Says
Garrett,
podcast.
Before you do yours,
go ahead, Kyle. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I just want to. So that score prediction, that means the win streak is over, obviously.
Yep.
But that would also mean that the Chiefs gave up more than 30 points for the first time since the Super Bowl against the Eagles, which is, I believe, 30 games now or 29 games now. 30. I think it's 30.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's been up there, yeah.
They played 21 last year because they didn't get the buys, right? So they 17-4 is 21, and 10 we're at 30.
There's no chance I'm mathing that right now.
30 or 31. So anyway, it's that would also mean that Mahomes as an underdog is 12-1-1 against the spread and 11-3 straight up. That would mean that would mean a significant shift in those stats as well. Also, you mentioned winning on a last-second field goal. What do those numbers look like for the team that blocked a last-second field goal? Because that's probably a little bit different story.
He said the last play.
No, I'm talking about a team that wins on the last play of a game. Statistically, has usually not fared well the next week.
Okay, I thought it was specific to the. I thought for whatever reason I thought you said field goal and specific to field goal. My stuff's lagging a little bit for some reason, so I apologize. But I just was curious. I just wanted to clarify, like that would be the defensive streak break. That would be the win streak break. That would be the Mahomes against the spread break. If we're talking numbers, I was curious. Okay, Gary, go ahead. 38-14.
I told 38-14. Listen, I told you didn't want me to go last. You mentioned in the pod.
Hey, at least we got out the way first.
It's out of the way. I put it out there. I'm letting Tom's haterade power push this team to victory. Somebody send this to Mahomes. Maybe it'll be.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe, send it to Mahomes.
I'm going to open up Twitter tomorrow. It's just saying
the motivation
Mahomes
from him.
Has you blocked.
We going to tag Bobby in the clip. Garrett, clip this and tag Bobby.
Smart.
Clip it and tag Bobby.
Smart. Yeah. I heard that Bobby guy's not a great trainer, and then they're going to lose. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I can't be that serious about it.
Calm down. Don't go that far.
Yeah. No, Bobby. Bobby. I know you're still watching because you're a big fan. Okay, let me jump in here before Kyle gives his, because I think I know what direction he's going, obviously. I will be honest. I was very back and forth with this game all week. Like I really was. Like I had full expectation actually before this episode. I was at work today and I was thinking like, I think I'm gonna choose the Bills. I was at work thinking that like, man, it does seem like a wake up game that the Chiefs will badly need. And it seems like they're just at a low point in their season, even though they're undefeated. It just seems like only 16 points last week and kind of an up and down effort, missing some big shots. And the Bills are, they're just hot. They are very hot right now. And the Chiefs are not really as hot. They know us very well. Their regular season record versus us is very good. And ultimately, I think we will even look back at this game, win or lose, and be like, that's a completely different team than what we are looking at in the playoffs and going forward. I was really set on choosing the Bills, I think. And even Tom's little serenade right there even almost swayed me again. I think it's going to be a really close game. I think it's going to be really close. I alluded to maybe it being a shootout earlier, but after everything, I think it might be a lower scoring game. And my big thing here for the Chiefs, defense, I'm really not worried about. They might give up a couple more than they're used to. It might be like 24 points or 27 points for the Bills. I still think they hold them underneath that 28 point, that streak that they have going on. I think that at least happens. The Chiefs, man, it almost like the lack of offense almost gives me more confidence in this week because they've missed. I mean, last week they missed on like 3 wide open touchdowns. They could have had more. Mostly Pat missing
Not
on those
trying to hate,
touchdowns.
but he will tell you he missed at least 2.
No, you're right. You're right. That is very valid. And they've had a couple weeks, the past few weeks, where they just haven't been as productive. They've squandered some red zone opportunities and it just hasn't been clicking, and all of that almost just leads me to believe that like the best times are ahead of them, like they've missed Xavier Worthy on a lot of these deep shots and whatnot. And I just feel like they've got to hit one eventually. And it feels like it could happen this game. And, D-Hop hasn't, they didn't get him. Well, they got him in the end zone a couple times already, but it's just, it hasn't been like that monster of a red zone guy we've seen yet. And I just think that'll happen now. I think like I said, the lack of offense the past few weeks honestly just gives me more confidence that this is the week that it'll hit, and they'll finally figure out something to it. So with that, I will be picking the Chiefs to win. I will indeed not be siding with Tom. I'm going to go with 26-25 Chiefs, and that's a very. I mean, I don't know exactly how that score would happen. I'm throwing out a number because I think ultimately, the Bills will be held underneath 28. I think that streak will continue. I think the Chiefs will win, not by much. I mean, I think the spread's only 2.5, Kyle, if I remember that correctly.
Chiefs are 2.5 point underdogs.
Yeah, so there's a chance that gets covered, but I think the Chiefs. I think they figure it out.
If you're picking them to win, they're covering it because they're 2.5
exactly.
dogs.
I think it's. I don't know. It just feels like the magic that's going on with this team and this season so far, even though we've not seen very good football. I don't know. I think it just feels like another time where we're going to rip the Bills fans' hearts out and we're going to win off of something crazy or just something, and the Bills are going to be pissed and we're going to keep moving. So 26-25 is my prediction for the Chiefs. I could very well see it being 26-25 for the Bills, though. I really can. And this is, I think, more of a coin flip game in my prediction than any other one so far.
Right? That's got to be a scoregami. There's no way there's been a 26-25 game, right? Like
26-25. I feel like that's happened.
A bunch of random field goals or a safety and some nonsense to get there.
That can happen. That feels odd. I'll look it up right now while you go. Yeah.
There's a couple hundred of you watching this. You've been with us for an hour and a half now. If you got score predictions like our friend Randy, drop them in the chat. Show them off. Let us know what you guys think. Drop them in here. All the platforms, Twitter, Facebook.
Kyle, last time 26-25 happened, it was us versus the Bengals in week 2.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
I looked at scoregami. I was like, oh yeah, it was us.
That's fair. That's a good point. I forgot that game.
I forgot about that game completely. Honestly, that game eliminated directly.
That fan base, that team is mightily forgettable for me most of the time. Other than when they're yapping in my mentions about nothing. Drop them in the chat if you got them. Score predictions. All right. You said you think you know where I'm going. And it's funny because I've gone back and forth about this game about 100 times.
Dang.
Not whether or not the Chiefs win this game, but what this game looks like for the win. Because I am taking Kansas City to win this game. For a couple of different reasons, I have been back and forth. There were some causes for concern on some certain things. The injury to Dalton Kincaid is real big. That's a real big problem for Buffalo. We've struggled against tight ends a lot. That's the best tight end on their team by a mile. And I don't think if you'd have told people that like a year ago, they'd have believed you because Dawson Knox was coming off a pretty good year and so on and so forth. I believe other than one game with Dawson Knox, he's not gone over 45 yards or 42 yards against the Chiefs. I heard that stat earlier from one of the shows that I was listening to, one of the national shows. I am more convinced after that Broncos win than I was all the way up through watching that Broncos game. And even after rewatching it, I went back. That Broncos game, something was bothering me about that game. I actually went back and watched that game twice. I very rarely go back and watch a game more than once. Usually I go through and watch it one time afterwards to deal with it and kind of process it. I went back and watched that game a second time after the first rewatch. They weren't as bad as I called them out on throughout that episode earlier this week, which if you want, you can go see it. It wasn't pretty. We had a lot of conversation. I don't think they played as poorly as it felt in the moment. They missed some things, and that's why that game was close. They put themselves in position to not make that game close, and they missed. Whether it was Patrick, whether it was the offensive line getting smoked at points, at crucial points too in some of those instances.
Yeah.
It felt bad. It felt awful. It wasn't as bad as it felt. And that's a good thing for this Chiefs team. Now, I hope they felt like it felt bad and that they approached it like it felt bad. Because this team, after something feels bad, currently they're on a 15-game winning streak after it felt bad last time. And it felt real bad after Christmas Day. Like Tom mentioned the Christmas Day game. It ruined everybody's Christmas in the kingdom. Everybody was mad. Nobody had a good day. I'm sure there were lots of family member fights amongst Chiefs Kingdom families. I'm sure it was not nice. I mentioned the Patrick Mahomes stats against the spread, against being an underdog. He's 12-1-1 against the spread. He's 11-3 overall, and I think the last time he lost on the spread game, lost in a game where they weren't the favorite, was like 2.5 years ago or 3 years ago or something like that. It's been a long time. He's been Nick Wright. Shout out Nick Wright. Love Nick Wright. He's been an underdog 5 times, I believe, since the last time that he lost as an underdog, and they've won every single one of those games, including all of them on the way to the Super Bowl after the Dolphins game last year, because they were underdogs in every game after the Dolphins game in the playoffs last year. They were underdogs against San Francisco this year, and this is game 5. So I think it's 4, and this is the 5th game. I don't traditionally make a habit of betting against Patrick Mahomes when he's got numbers like that. It's a real bad idea. Appreciate it, Tom.
Taking one for the team, guys. Taking one for the team.
You're
all welcome.
The styles make fights portion of this game is why I've gone back and forth so much on what this game looks like. If the Bills come out and break some of their tendencies on both sides of the ball and do things they haven't done basically all season, I think it's a rock fight. I think it's 24-21, 24-20 rock fight. There's not a lot of room. They're going to punch each other in the face until somebody says no more, and nobody's going to say no more. The clock's just going to run out. And it will likely come down to who has the ball last, which we've seen a lot of the time in this matchup. Let's see if you give him 13 seconds again, Sean. You think you're going to do that one again? I bet you don't.
Go ahead, Tony. Celebrate for him, Tony Romo.
Yeah, go ahead. So I'm to the point. The Chiefs aren't giving up the defensive streak. And the more and more I've looked at this game, and the more and more I've looked at what the Bills do well and where they've struggled, I don't think the Bills are a bad team, but I don't think there's enough outside of Josh Allen being good on offense that threatens this defense. The wide receiver core, especially with Kincaid, his favorite target, and Keon Coleman, his second favorite target, not playing in this game. Even if Amari Cooper does play, as mentioned, the hand and all that, it's just going to be really hard unless Josh just tries to run the ball a ton. And I think if you focus the run game with James Cook, there's going to be too many guys down near the line of scrimmage, and Spags will have a plan for the spying portion of it that he's not going to be able to affect the game as much with his legs as he's done in the past when they've had to worry about Stephon Diggs on the outside, who drew a lot of double coverage and a lot of attention, where they've had to worry about Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox when he was good and healthy and fully active. If you go look at what happened to Dawson Knox, he had a couple of injuries that I think have probably affected him a little bit long term. If I remember right, one of them was a knee, and that's real hard. So that's some of it. I'm not telling you Dawson's washed, but I'm not telling you it kind of like Clyde, the high ankle sprain that kind of derailed everything. Tough to not have the same explosion, the same burst, the same cuts, the same movement. There's not a lot about that Bills offense that's terrifying other than Josh Allen. The inverse of that is the Chiefs are getting healthier at the right time. They're getting guys back. They're getting things that matter. And they've been, other than the Broncos game, been trending upward on the offense. And like I said, when you go back and watch the Broncos game, the offense had opportunities and probably should have converted several more of them. But the guy who's the best player on the team had a bad day. So if I'm going to take the Chiefs, and I've been going back and forth on the number 2. I would have probably told you, like I said, 24-20 game with Kincaid, with a healthy Keon Coleman, with a not hurt left tackle with Spencer Brown and an ankle. Give me the Chiefs 41-14. I don't think this is close. The styles don't make nice.
Hey, wait a minute.
We're just all over the board with these predictions today.
I think they get a turnover. I think there's, like Randy said, I think there's a defensive touchdown. I think they get after this offense because I think they make them one-dimensional. And if you make a team one-dimensional, I don't care how good a team is, how good a quarterback is. If they have one option and you know what they're doing, it's going to be hard to succeed. Give me the Chiefs in a blowout. Because I think the other part of this is Buffalo has had a little bit of inflation against playing some bad teams and beating up on bad teams. The Bills' defensive stats are a little inflated because of that in some instances. When they've played the good teams, they've struggled. I could be very wrong. I don't think I'm going to be.
Well, you guys realize that this means that the game's going to end in a tie, just so that prove that we are all wrong.
We have
just to make sure
that
nobody wins.
Bills blowout. We have Kyle Chiefs blowout. We have me right in the middle. Who knows?
This tells you what the game is.
Yeah,
this tells you what the game is, though. Because,
this is definitely,
by the way, guys, we don't talk about
game.
this before the stand. We don't talk about this before we record. We don't discuss all this stuff ahead of time. There's a little bit of a structure. We have an idea of what we're going to do. But we don't go ahead and do nobody knows what anybody's going to say on this. I think that gives you the spectrum of just how these two teams match up and the familiarity and the similarities. I just think these are two teams headed in opposite directions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is the time. This is the game that, no offense to the Broncos and no offense to some of the other games, but they know Buffalo is Buffalo, and they have a thing to say about Buffalo. They're going to come out focused. That offensive line is pissed off about what happened last week.
They better be.
Look out.
They should be. Yeah. Everybody should be pissed off, really. That's the big thing from last week. Everybody should be pissed off with that performance. And
thank God this game's not at noon. They're awake. Yeah. They'll be awake by 3:30.
Yeah, exactly. That's the good part. We don't got to wake up for that early noon game. We're got a little bit later of a slot.
It's only early for you, homie. You're the one out west.
It's kind of early, yeah.
Wait, hold on. Stop. You know what we haven't acknowledged, Garrett, about this game? Do you know what day this game falls on?
Mm-hmm. I do.
I guarantee you Kyle knows.
I think I do know.
What's the date, Garrett?
The 17th of November, right?
Yeah.
Sure is.
So
that's a date, right?
Yeah.
That's a fairly significant date for this podcast.
You're right. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
2/3 of us were born.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
On that date.
About. Yeah.
And they picked the opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
For the record, my birthday wish is a Chiefs win.
Yeah, everybody be sure to.
But he picked the Bills to blow us out, just so we're clear.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, everybody be sure to wish Tom and Kyle happy birthdays on Sunday because that is Sunday. That is how did that happen that both y'all have the same birthday? Isn't that crazy?
No idea, but we're here. He's also not the only friend I have that has the same birthday as me. I actually know someone else that I've known for a long time that has the same birthday as me too.
I mean, we're Valentine's Day babies when you do the math.
Yes, sir.
Garrett, let's take us home before we get into. All right. Before we just
you're right. You're right. That's all we've got for you tonight. Once again, appreciate everyone for tuning in, rocking with us. We have over 200 viewers right now, which is pretty good.
Shout out,
really appreciate you all for joining and rocking with us tonight. Should be a good game. Should be a fun matchup. Either way of the spectrum.
Keep going. I'm gonna take us out at the end.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna say could be a very interesting game. All three of our scores that we predicted have all happened in Chiefs-Bills games. Like they have been Bills blowouts before, there's been Chiefs blowouts before, and there's been ones that have come straight down to the wire. So definitely anything can happen on Sunday. With that being said, I think I think the Chiefs are going to be in a good spot for their season regardless of how Sunday goes. Kyle, what do you got for us?
As we get out of here, and since it's Tom and I's birthday on Sunday, and since there's 200 of you hanging out with us watching, it's one of the I think it's the biggest live number since we started this like a month ago.
I think so. Yeah.
We're going to do a giveaway. I just decided right now. Shout out to our friend Corey, Artist Chief. He's got a bunch of prints. I don't know if you guys can see this super well, but if you look up there in the top corner, you'll see somebody's face.
Oh, yeah.
He just doesn't look all that thrilled.
Happy. Yeah.
And then if you can look right there. It's a nice whole print. So we'll do a giveaway for one of these. There'll be details that come out on the social media app of your choosing for the most part, unless you're on the new one that none of us have gotten onto really yet.
Not yet. Never. Maybe.
We'll throw out a giveaway. We'll put that information out. Make sure you drop us a follow on all the platforms. If you're on one platform, do us a favor. Hop over to the other platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube specifically. Stay tuned for that. We'll put that out, and there might be maybe a bonus print or two, depending on if my score prediction or my blowout is right. So we'll see. Who knows? I'm kind of the keeper of the prints on the giveaways, so I get to make those.
You get an extra
make
print
those choices.
So blew out the Bills. Yeah.
Thank you guys all for hanging out with us tonight. Another fairly long live. We seem to get pretty long on the lives. It's
for whatever
reason.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. Make sure you're throwing comments in. Be part of the show. I think we're going to try and build in a segment to kind of help you guys want to maybe interact more, either whether it's a Q&A or whether it's a prediction segment. We'll figure out something.
For every question you ask, I take an article of clothing off. We could really.
We're going to get wild. That may get us taken off some platforms. I don't know about monetization.
Listen, we're almost at the 2-hour mark. My sensors are going. I'm losing my filter, boys.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you guys again. Follow us everywhere. Kingdom Says Pod, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Yes.
Yeah,
YouTube,
check us out. Be sure to tune in tomorrow morning. That giveaway will go live. We'll make sure that giveaway goes up and goes live. So go over on Twitter, Facebook. You can get entered in. Twitter is always the main place. And there might be a way to gain some
your entries from anywhere.
As well.
It don't matter.
Yeah,
exactly.
And come back and make sure you come back next week to see if I'll be recording from my house or some other foreign
and how many
location.
clothes Tom has on. Yeah, exactly. But yep, I'll now that's it. I think that's it. Yep. Appreciate you all for rocking with us. We'll be back next week for a midweek episode, and then next Friday we'll be back doing another live just like tonight. So be sure to be on the lookout for that every Friday night. We're gonna keep doing these and keep rolling until the Chiefs win another Super Bowl, which is it's inevitable. I mean, come on, it's inevitable. You know,
a few months, right?
months away,
Sounds good to
3
me.
months away.
And should keep doing it after that too, though.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, Chiefs Kingdom, appreciate you, man. We love you guys. We appreciate you, and we will see you guys on the next episode of The Kingdom Says.